Don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest stories. I've always loved storms, the drama, the raw power, the way they shake things up and make everything feel new again. But what happened during that particular storm changed everything, and it had nothing to do with thunder or lightning. It was about something entirely different, something human, unexpected, and beautifully emotional. My name is Diane. I'm 47 years old, and I've been living in the cozy suburban town of Willow Creek for the last 10 years. Life here moves slowly, which I usually find comforting, but lately I'd begun to feel restless, like something was missing, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. That Friday night I was home alone, watching a rerun of an old black and white movie, when suddenly the light flickered and then went out entirely. Great, I thought, fumbling around for candles. Just what I needed. I glanced out the window and noticed that the wind was picking up, bending the trees dramatically beneath a darkening sky. After lighting a few candles, I wrapped myself in an old quilt my mother had given me years ago and settled onto the couch, resigned to ride out the storm. The rain started hammering the roof, each droplet tapping insistently, like a rhythmic symphony. Suddenly, through the steady pounding of rain, I heard a loud banging at my front door. My heart skipped a beat. Who would be out in a storm like this? Grabbing my flashlight, I cautiously moved toward the front door and peeked through the window. Standing on my porch, dripping wet, was Mark, my neighbor from 2 doors down. Mark had moved in a few months ago, a quiet, friendly man in his early 50s who mostly kept to himself. We'd exchanged greetings and small talk, but I'd never had a real conversation with him. I opened the door quickly, startled by how soaked he was. His dark hair clung to his forehead, and his shirt stuck tightly to his chest. He seemed embarrassed, his cheeks flushed even in the dim candlelight. "Diane, I'm really sorry to bother you," he said, his voice muffled by the howling wind. "But a tree just fell across my driveway, and it's blocked the road completely. My power's out too, and my phone battery's dead. I didn't know where else to go." I didn't hesitate. "Come in, Mark. You're going to catch your death out there." He stepped inside, and I immediately handed him a thick towel. He dried himself awkwardly, apologizing again. I didn't want to intrude, but... "Nonsense," I reassured him warmly. "We're neighbors. If we can't help each other during a storm, then what good are we?" Mark's shoulders relaxed visibly at my words, and I guided him into the living room. In the candlelight, his features softened. I'd never noticed how strikingly blue his eyes were, or how the lines at the corner seemed to hint at countless untold stories. He sat on the couch, still shivering slightly. "You'd think at my age I'd be better prepared," he joked quietly, rubbing his hands together. I smiled gently. "Storms always catch us off guard," I replied, thinking not only of the weather but of my own restless feelings lately. I handed him a fresh cup of tea I'd managed to brew before the power went out. He held it gratefully, the warmth bringing color back to his cheeks. As the wind howled outside, we started talking, first about the storm, then about ourselves. Mark had recently moved to Willow Creek to start fresh after losing his wife 5 years earlier. His openness surprised me. He spoke tenderly of his late wife, honoring her memory with quiet respect, yet there was a subtle loneliness that resonated deeply within me. In return, I shared that I'd been divorced for 7 years after a marriage that quietly faded into friendship rather than love. "We grew apart," I admitted softly, looking down into my tea. "It's funny how loneliness sneaks up on you, isn't it?" Mark nodded thoughtfully, his eyes kind and understanding. "It's the silence that's hardest," he agreed, "especially on nights like this." A comfortable quiet fell between us, filled with the rhythm of rain and the gentle flicker of candlelight. I felt something shifting inside me, a warmth I hadn't felt in years. Yet I was cautious, afraid of misunderstanding this newfound intimacy that seemed to come so naturally between us. Finally, Mark broke the silence, his voice low and hesitant. "Diane, thank you for letting me in tonight. You didn't have to." I reached out impulsively, placing my hand gently on his arm. "I'm glad you knocked," I admitted honestly. "Truth is, storms like these remind me of how alone I usually feel. It's nice to share it with someone." Mark placed his hand softly over mine, the warmth of his touch sending a gentle electric pulse through me. "Me too," he whispered, meeting my eyes with sincerity shining through every word. "I've spent a lot of nights alone lately, and it's strange how comfortable this feels, talking with you like this." My heart fluttered slightly, surprised and moved by the unexpected depth of our connection. Outside, thunder rolled loudly, punctuating our silence and underscoring the intensity of the moment. I felt drawn to Mark in a way I hadn't felt toward anyone in a very long time. Yet, as the wind howled louder and lightning illuminated the shadows in the room, we both became aware of how delicate and unexpected this moment was. A blush crept into my cheeks, suddenly shy. Mark cleared his throat gently, sensing my hesitation. "Diane," he said softly, breaking our mutual silence, "I don't want to complicate your life or mine, but I'd really like to get to know you better. Maybe even see where this goes, if that's something you'd want." His honesty touched me deeply, bringing tears to my eyes that I quickly blinked away. "I'd like that, Mark," I whispered earnestly. "Let's just see how we feel when the storm passes." He smiled warmly, understanding in his eyes. "Agreed. No pressure, no expectations." We spent the rest of that stormy night sitting side by side, exchanging stories and quietly building a friendship that felt new yet comfortably familiar. Something in me stirred with hope and possibility, a feeling I'd nearly forgotten. By the time dawn approached, the storm was passing, both outside and inside. Yet the true surprise of the night, the one that shocked me most, wasn't the raging tempest or fallen trees, but the unexpected warmth I discovered with Mark. I couldn't yet know how deeply our lives were about to change, but I knew one thing for certain: the storm had brought something unexpected into my life, and there was no going back now. Morning arrived gently, bringing pale sunlight through my curtains and scattering patterns across the wooden floor. Outside, branches lay scattered in yards, leaves blanketing the streets, evidence of last night's turbulent weather. But inside my home, the remnants of the storm told a different story, a tale of vulnerability, warmth, and unexpected companionship. Mark had left shortly after sunrise to assess the damage at his house, but his presence lingered in my thoughts long after the door closed behind him. The way his eyes held mine when he spoke, the sincere gentleness in his voice, these quiet details replayed continuously in my mind, making me smile privately into my morning coffee. That afternoon, as I gathered fallen branches from the yard, I noticed Mark returning, approaching slowly along the street. His footsteps paused briefly as he reached my property line, then continued confidently toward me. "Hey again," he called, smiling warmly. "Looks like you've got quite the cleanup on your hands." I laughed softly, brushing loose strands of hair from my face. "It's not so bad. How's your house looking?" "Not great, to be honest," he sighed, rubbing the back of his neck with a rueful smile. "That tree took down my fence and damaged part of the roof. I'll be busy for a while." "Well," I responded immediately, surprising myself, "let me help you. 2 pairs of hands are better than 1. Mark seemed taken aback by my offer, then a gentle appreciation softened his expression. "Are you sure, Diane? You've got plenty of your own mess." I placed my hands firmly on my hips, playfully challenging him. "Absolutely sure. Besides, I owe you for keeping me company last night." His face broke into a genuine grin, crinkles forming gently around his blue eyes. "In that case, I gratefully accept." As we walked side by side toward Mark's house, I found myself reflecting on how natural it felt to be around him, despite our brief acquaintance. In his presence, I felt an ease I hadn't experienced in a long time, one that made the task ahead seem less daunting. Mark's property was in rough shape. The massive tree lay across his driveway, splintered wood and twisted branches scattered across the yard. He looked around, shaking his head slightly, yet somehow managing to remain positive. "Guess Mother Nature had other plans for my weekend," he said, and we both laughed softly, sharing a moment of mutual amusement. Soon enough we got to work, cutting and moving branches, clearing debris, and eventually creating small piles near the curb. Hours passed swiftly, conversation flowing naturally between us as if we'd known each other for years. During our breaks, Mark shared more stories from his past, and I opened up about my own dreams and fears, things I hadn't said aloud to anyone in years. The emotional bond that started in the candlelit intimacy of last night deepened steadily beneath the open sky, strengthened by mutual understanding and quiet trust. As we paused late in the afternoon, leaning against his porch railing and sipping cold lemonade, Mark's gaze grew thoughtful, turning toward the sky. "It's funny, isn't it?" he mused quietly. "Sometimes the worst storms bring the greatest clarity. I followed his gaze upward, noting the clear sky where only hours ago clouds had raged. I was just thinking something similar, I admitted softly, turning to face him. I suppose sometimes we need a little chaos to remind us how much we crave connection. Mark turned toward me, his eyes searching my face gently, perhaps seeing the unspoken vulnerability I'd hidden from others for years. Diane, I've spent a long time convincing myself I didn't need anyone else, that solitude was strength. He paused, his voice catching slightly. But being around you, well, it makes me realize I've been fooling myself. My breath caught in my throat, moved by the quiet sincerity in his words. Slowly I reached out, placing my hand gently on top of his. His fingers tightened softly around mine, warmth radiating from that simple gesture. Maybe we both needed that storm more than we thought, I murmured quietly, looking down at our joined hands. His voice was gentle, thoughtful. Maybe it's fate, Diane. Life shaking us awake, reminding us what we've been missing. We stood quietly for a moment, absorbing the depth of the moment. Subtle tension filled the silence, a delicate anticipation that spoke louder than any words. Eventually, Mark broke the quiet, his voice low and intimate. Would it be all right if I took you out for dinner sometime, Diane? I'd really like to see you again in a more intentional setting. My heart warmed instantly, my smile growing slowly across my face. I'd love that, Mark. His expression brightened visibly, relief mingling with excitement. Good, he said softly, chuckling gently. Honestly, I was nervous you'd say no. I squeezed his hand reassuringly. No chance. Not after everything we've shared. The sun began dipping toward the horizon, casting a soft golden glow over Mark's yard, reflecting gently in his eyes. There was a newfound tenderness between us, a fragile yet vibrant connection neither of us had anticipated, yet it felt honest, unmistakably authentic. Walking back home later that evening, I felt lighter, hopeful. Life had surprised me in the best possible way, reminding me how much warmth, kindness, and unexpected connections could enrich us, even at times we least expected them. As I prepared for bed that night, I thought about Mark, his kindness, openness, and genuine vulnerability. It had been a very long time since I'd felt this hopeful about someone. Could this storm truly have changed everything? I didn't have all the answers, but for the first time in years, I found myself eager to discover them. In the quiet darkness of my bedroom, with a soft hum of evening crickets drifting through the open window, I whispered a silent thank you, to the storm, to fate, and especially to Mark. Little did I know, the emotional depth of this journey had only just begun, and what came next would change us both in ways we couldn't yet imagine. The next few days passed swiftly, and thoughts of Mark wove gently through every moment. I caught myself smiling spontaneously, distracted by memories of our shared conversations and the quiet warmth of his presence. I hadn't anticipated feeling this way at 47, like a schoolgirl waiting anxiously for a phone call. But here I was, my heart fluttering every time I glanced toward his house. Finally, the day of our dinner arrived. Mark had suggested we try the charming little Italian place downtown, a cozy family-owned restaurant known for its soft lighting and intimate atmosphere. I hadn't felt this nervous or excited in a long time. That evening I dressed carefully, choosing a simple yet elegant blue dress that brought out the brightness in my eyes. I smiled at my reflection in the mirror, noticing how the anticipation had softened my features, giving me a youthful glow I'd almost forgotten. When Mark arrived to pick me up, standing at my doorstep with a gentle smile, my breath caught. He wore a crisp navy button-down shirt, sleeves casually rolled up, and dark slacks that complemented his strong, quiet presence. He offered me a single rose, deep red and delicately fragrant. "You look beautiful, Diane," he said quietly, sincerity evident in his warm gaze. I blushed softly, accepting the rose and inhaling its sweet fragrance. "Thank you, Mark. You're looking quite handsome yourself." At the restaurant, we settled into a corner table beneath soft golden lights. Gentle music played in the background, creating an ambience that invited openness and intimacy. Conversation flowed effortlessly, punctuated by laughter and moments of quiet understanding. Mark's eyes sparkled with gentle humor as he recounted memories of his youth, and I shared stories from my own past, surprised at how naturally vulnerability came when talking to him. Midway through our meal, Mark's expression became contemplative, a slight hesitation crossing his features. He placed his fork down gently, meeting my eyes with thoughtful seriousness. "Diane," he began carefully, "there's something I feel I need to share with you, something that's been on my mind ever since the storm." I paused, my heart suddenly beating faster. "Go on," I urged softly, trying to hide the slight anxiety that crept in. He took a slow, deep breath, as if gathering his thoughts. "It's been years since I've allowed myself to feel this way about someone. Ever since I lost Lisa, my late wife, I've held myself back emotionally. I thought shutting out vulnerability meant protecting myself from pain. But after meeting you, I realized I've been denying myself something essential." His honesty touched me deeply, and I instinctively reached across the table, gently placing my hand atop his. "Mark, thank you for telling me this. You have every right to be cautious after losing someone you loved so much. But vulnerability, letting ourselves feel deeply, is what makes life meaningful." His gaze softened gratefully, relief washing across his features. "You're right, Diane. And that's exactly why this evening is so important to me. In choosing to open myself up again, to risk feeling something meaningful again, with you." My heart swelled at his words, warmth spreading through my chest. "I feel exactly the same way, Mark," I whispered, feeling vulnerable yet safe in his presence. "I've spent so long pretending I was perfectly fine on my own, but deep down I've been craving real connection. And when you showed up during that storm, I realized what I'd been missing." We shared a quiet moment of mutual understanding, fingers lightly intertwined on the tablecloth, savoring the newfound closeness between us. After dinner, we walked slowly through town beneath softly glowing street lamps. The night was pleasantly cool, a gentle breeze rustling leaves around us. Without consciously thinking, my hand found Mark's, our fingers intertwining naturally. Felt right, simple yet profoundly meaningful. As we passed a small park illuminated softly by moonlight, Mark paused, turning gently toward me. In the quiet stillness, he reached up to softly brush a strand of hair from my face, fingertips lingering gently against my cheek. "Diane," he whispered, his voice tender and sincere, "meeting you has reminded me how good it feels to share life with someone else. I didn't expect this. I didn't even think it was possible. But now that you're here, I don't want to let this feeling go." My breath caught, my heartbeat quickening at the sincerity shining clearly in his eyes. "Neither do I, Mark. You've opened my heart in ways I thought were lost forever." Slowly, he leaned in closer, pausing slightly as if waiting for my permission. Without hesitation, I tilted my face upward, meeting his lips softly. Our kiss was gentle, respectful, yet filled with a deep, quiet passion that spoke volumes. In that single moment beneath the moonlit sky, the loneliness that had defined our recent years faded away completely. When we pulled apart, Mark pressed his forehead gently against mine, eyes closed as if savoring the depth of the moment. "I didn't think I'd ever feel this again," he confessed quietly. "Me either," I whispered back, fingers caressing the side of his face softly. "Thank you for taking the chance." As we walked home hand in hand beneath the stars, I felt changed, lighter, hopeful, and emotionally awakened. Our unexpected evening had gently unlocked doors within us both, allowing warmth and closeness to flood into places we'd kept carefully guarded for far too long. At my doorstep, Mark paused, turning to face me with a tender expression. "Thank you, Diane, for tonight, for everything." I smiled warmly, squeezing his hand affectionately. "Tonight is just the beginning, Mark. I truly believe that." As he walked back toward his home, my heart was filled with profound gratitude. Life had surprised me, had surprised us, in a way neither of us had imagined possible. I felt renewed, emotionally awakened, and deeply connected in a way that made my heart race with excitement for the future. Little did I know then, our journey was just beginning, and the most profound discovery lay just ahead. The weeks that followed seemed to pass in a dreamlike haze, each day more vibrant and alive than the last. Mark and I spent as much time together as we could, sharing long walks, quiet evenings, and the kind of easy companionship I'd long forgotten was possible. My once solitary world had blossomed into something warmer, richer, and far more fulfilling. One sunny afternoon, as we enjoyed coffee on my front porch, Mark glanced toward me thoughtfully, his gaze gentle yet serious. "You know, Diane, I've been thinking about how strange it is, how our paths crossed that stormy night. It's almost like fate decided to step in." I smiled warmly, leaning comfortably against him. "I've thought the same thing. I never expected a storm to bring something this wonderful into my life. He squeezed my hand affectionately. Neither did I. It's been years since I felt disconnected to anyone, and now I can't imagine going back. Our quiet reflection was interrupted by distant thunder, a sudden reminder of the night our journey had begun. Clouds gathered slowly in the sky, their gentle rumble a soothing reminder of the beauty that can arise from chaos. Later that evening, as rain gently tapped against the window panes, Mark surprised me by pulling out an old photograph from his wallet. His expression was soft and nostalgic as he handed it to me. "This was Lisa," he said quietly, a gentle reverence in his voice. "I've carried this photo with me every day since she passed. But tonight feels right to finally let go." I carefully examined the worn photograph. Lisa was a lovely woman with a warm, genuine smile, someone clearly loved and deeply cherished. My heart tightened with empathy and gratitude at Mark's openness. "She was beautiful, Mark. She must have been very special," I whispered sincerely. He nodded gently, his eyes reflective. "She was. She taught me how important it is to love openly, without regret. For years, I thought I'd never feel that again. But now, Diane, I've found something incredible with you. You've brought me back to life." Tears blurred my vision as I placed the photograph gently back into his hand. "Mark, I can't express what it means to me that you've shared this. I want to honor what you've had, what you've lost, and cherish what we're building together." He looked at me deeply, eyes shining softly. "That's exactly how I feel, Diane. Meeting you has taught me that love is infinite. Our hearts expand, they don't replace. I never imagined I could feel this deeply again, but here we are, and it feels right." My heart swelled as we embraced, holding each other tenderly while rain washed softly across the windows. It was a moment of quiet gratitude, a shared acknowledgement of loss, growth, and the beautiful complexity of finding love again. Several weeks later, Mark invited me on a weekend getaway to a cabin nestled in the mountains nearby. It was a perfect setting, quiet, peaceful, and deeply romantic. We spent hours hiking scenic trails, laughing together, and talking deeply into the night beneath stars so bright they seemed impossibly close. On our last evening, as we sat beside the crackling fireplace wrapped in a soft quilt, Mark turned toward me, his eyes warm yet vulnerable. He slipped a delicate, sparkling ring onto my finger, then gathered me gently into his arms. We kissed deeply, joyfully, beneath the warm glow of the fire, sealing our commitment to embrace the unexpected, beautiful journey life had given us. Returning home, we shared our happy news with friends and neighbors. The warmth of their congratulations echoed the joy we both felt deeply inside. But privately, we knew that our true celebration was far quieter, far deeper, a shared understanding of love born from vulnerability, openness, and emotional courage. Several months later, we married in a small, intimate ceremony in our backyard, surrounded by a few dear friends, neighbors, and family. Our vows reflected our journey, honest, heartfelt, and deeply emotional. As I stood before Mark, looking into his eyes, I knew without a doubt that this storm, both literal and emotional, had brought us exactly where we needed to be. Later that evening, as twilight fell softly around us, Mark took my hand gently, smiling at me warmly. "Ready for whatever comes next, Mrs. Anderson." I squeezed his hand lovingly, feeling profoundly grateful and deeply hopeful. "As long as we face it together, Mark, I'm ready for everything." We stood together beneath a sky gradually filling with stars, hearts united by vulnerability, openness, and mutual respect. Our journey had been unexpected, deeply emotional, and life-changing in ways we never imagined possible. And as we faced our future, one thing was certain. Together we discovered something remarkable, the courage to love deeply, openly, and without regret. And that was worth every storm we'd ever faced.